Good evening, everyone. My name is Amber Von Harten, and I'm on council staff. I'm the outreach specialist for the council, and I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening as we do a quick update on the progress that the council has made implementing the vision blueprint for the snapper grouper fishery. This is the first vision blueprint for the fishery, and it spans the years of 2016 through 2020. So hopefully those that are joining us this evening are a little bit familiar with the vision blueprint, but we will quickly go through some of the background information. So the outline for this presentation is just a little bit of background about the vision blueprint and how we got to where we are this evening, the objectives of the evaluation plan for the blueprint, and then we're going to go over some progress on the specific action items that were under each of the four goals in the blueprint. And if you recall, the blueprint is organized around four main goals of science, management, communication, and governance. So as a quick refresher, the vision blueprint is serving as a living document to help guide management of the snapper grouper fishery into the future. Again, it will help guide management from 2016 through 2020 and inform management measures that the council considers. And this was done and created through an exhaustive process, stakeholder-driven process, all throughout 2014 that involved in-person stakeholder meetings that we called port meetings. We had 26 up and down the region, as well as some additional ones in 2015, and different public comment opportunities to get input before the council actually adopted the vision blueprint in December of 2015. So as I mentioned earlier, this will guide development of any new amendments that address the different prioritized objectives and strategies in the blueprint, and really focuses on actions that would be used for management and used through the regular amendment process. That specifically focuses on the management goal. And as I mentioned earlier, the council adopted the vision blueprint in December 2015, and then it will be evaluated on a biannual basis. This is the first evaluation step that the blueprint will undergo. It will undergo another evaluation in 2018 where we'll do a little bit more interactive and engaged public input, probably with some meetings and other opportunities for folks to provide us input on how, what they think about the vision blueprint being implemented. And then we'll start the process all over again, and the blueprint will be updated in 2020. So what are the objectives of this evaluation and review is we want to make sure that the management actions that were proposed in the blueprint are actually achieving the vision for the fishery. Also to allow flexibility to adapt the management changes in the fishery, and also make sure that stakeholders stay engaged in the vision blueprint process and can provide us some input as we move forward through each year. And also, as we mentioned earlier today on the first webinar that we had, we also have new council members that come and go as they serve out their terms. And so we want to make sure that we have a process for new council members to become familiar with the blueprint and be able to understand how it's going to be used. So let's move into the first goal, which is science. And what you'll see at the top of the screen, for instance, on this slide is data collection, and that's one of the prioritized objectives under this goal. And then we had specific action items that we outlined were priority items for this first iteration of the blueprint from 2016 to 2020. And the council had prioritized some of these action items, and that's what we'll be discussing under each of the goals. So the first objective under science is focused on data collection, and you'll see here that the first priority action was looking at supporting efforts to create a more efficient reporting mechanism for trip tickets and logbooks. Excuse me, the council has done quite a bit of work on this specific action this year. As you know, we have a for-hire reporting amendment that will focus on charter captains that's been worked on throughout the year. And also the council received some funding to do a pilot project that would test out electronic reporting technology for charter vessels. The next action item, the next two action items actually are items that we actually need additional guidance from the council about, and that's validating data collection programs and also looking at different sampling resources that are needed to support these different data programs. So we need a little bit more guidance before moving forward with carrying out any specific activity on those action items. The next objective is cooperative research and citizen science. Again, we had quite a bit of momentum under this objective this year. One of the action items was to actually use fishing vessels and captains as alternative data collection platforms. And as I mentioned, this pilot project that the council's been has been underway since earlier this year has charter vessels actually participating in the pilot and testing out the tablet technology. And also we have some fishermen that are engaged in our process that are conducting some cooperative research on red snapper. We also are trying to identify sources of funding for different cooperative research, and as well as some of the surveys that support data collection efforts. And the council has been hosting excuse me, research planning meetings for spawning special management zones that will possibly be implemented through Snapper Grouper Amendment 36 in 2017. So trying to make sure that the different research activities being planned in those different spawning SMZs are being coordinated by the different researchers and fishermen that are involved in that research. Also trying to identify other types of NOAA funding opportunities to support the different research and monitoring needs for our fisheries. And then also the other priority action item was improving partnerships between researchers and fishermen. And if you're familiar with our effort, the council's effort to develop a citizen science program, you are familiar with the January 2016 workshop that we held that brought together over 60 participants, fishermen, scientists, data managers, as well as fishery managers, to kind of come up with a plan, another blueprint of what a citizen science program might look like for the council. And additionally, under cooperative research, we've also been supporting partnerships to enhance habitat and ecosystem mapping in the region through initiating regional mapping strategies as part of the Fishery Ecosystem Plan 2 support tools. Also continue to integrate different mapping products into our regional digital dashboard and habitat and ecosystem atlas. Under hot topics for the science goal, some of these ideas were to look at the possibility of starting a recreational fishing stamp or permit. This is actually one of the actions that is under consideration in the draft options paper for Snapper Grouper Amendment 43, which is looking at red snapper and recreational reporting. The next two, improvements to existing logbook programs and working with management partners on long-term funding for MARMAP, are some other items that need additional guidance from the council before we can move forward. And then the last action item is increasing bycatch and discard reporting. Again, this is some of the actions in Amendment 43 would address the specific action from the blueprint. And also we've had an opportunity to submit some grant proposals for some internal NOAA funding that are related to electronic reporting. The next goal is management. And just to give you a little bit of background on how some of the items for this goal were prioritized, the council took the information from all the port meetings, and we had them complete a survey to help prioritize some of these action items under the management goal. And so the council decided that they were going to focus the first two vision blueprint amendments that came out of the visioning process on specific action items for both commercial and recreational sectors. Both of these amendments that you see on the screen, number 1 and 2, address priority items from the vision blueprint to address fishery seasonality and retention. And then number 3 in this list is Amendment 43, which, as I mentioned earlier, will address red snapper plus different adaptive management approaches to address improving reporting, possible fishing seasons, and allowable fishing areas for snapper grouper species. So here's a few more details for the recreational visioning amendment, or regulatory amendment 26. It will consider aggregate bag limits, reconsideration of those, re-evaluation of the shallow water grouper closure, possibly modifying the minimum size limit for black sea bass, and removing recreational minimum size limits for deep water species, things like silk snapper, queen snapper, and blackfin snapper. For the commercial amendment, the regulatory amendment 27, items being considered for this amendment include establishing split seasons for deep water species and any of the smallmouth species, things like triggerfish. Trip limits and step downs, those are kinds of some management measures already in place for some of the species in the snapper grouper fishery, but considering how they pertain to traditional bandit boats, possibly lowering the trip limit in the second half of the vermilion snapper season, and also looking at trip limits by time period, whether it's by week or by month. Also reevaluating the shallow water grouper closure in the commercial sector, and then also looking at fishing year changes for things like the golden tilefish hook and line fishery. So those actions, or those possible actions in those two amendments, are all still in draft form. The council will be reviewing those at their upcoming December council meeting, and they are scheduled to possibly be approved for scoping that would happen in early 2017. Snapper Grouper Amendment 43 is the amendment that's being developed to address red snapper management as well as recreational reporting. The first 5 actions are looking at biological benchmarks for the fishery, and then actions 6 through 12 are looking at the different adaptive management approaches for managing the fishery, things like closed areas to reduce bycatch of red snapper, specific commercial and recreational management measures, possibly looking at a permit for the private recreational sector to fish for snapper grouper species, implementing reporting requirements for the private recreational sector, different accountability measures and adaptive management, and then best fishing practices to help reduce discard mortality. So things to reduce bear trauma using fish descending devices and things of that nature. The next goal is communication. And again, we've gotten a pretty good head start on a lot of the action items under this goal. One of them is to develop different educational programs for recreational anglers, specifically on how to reduce discards. Recently, we had 2 of our advisory panels meet, the Information and Education AP and the Snapper Grouper AP, and they both provided input on these different items that were being outlined in Snapper Grouper Amendment 43. So we have some good input to start with. Developing training for new AP members is another item that we need a little bit more additional guidance from the council on. Continued council support of the Marine Resource Education Program Southeast. This is a training program that's been developed by fishermen for fishermen and involves a 2-part workshop series, for the first one focusing on fisheries science and the second one focusing on fisheries management. And currently council staff serve on the steering committee for that program, as well as routinely provide curriculum development and also deliver a lot of the training during the workshops. Expanding the use of educational webinars, such as one like this that we're doing tonight to convey information, but specifically about data collection, stock assessments, and other fishery science concepts. So we did, again, get some input from the council's Information and Education AP, as well as the committee, on different approaches for developing these types of webinars in 2017. Continuing the Q&A webinars with council staff prior to our public hearings and scoping meetings. That's something that we've been doing for a couple of years now, and we've had 5 Q&A webinars so far held in 2016. Incorporating a real-time calendar on the council's website that displays current fishery closures for each sector. So we currently have a page on our website that lists the different fishery closures in each sector, and we're going to be working towards establishing a real-time calendar so people can just go to one-stop shop on our website and see a real-time calendar of what's open and what's closed. The next couple of things are talking about working with NOAA to provide, and the Southeast Regional Office to provide information about historical closure dates of fisheries, and also providing a little bit more advanced notification of the annual catch limit monitoring. We've heard from fishermen that a lot of times they feel like they're not getting enough advance notice before a fishery closes. So trying to work with the regional office to figure out ways to get that notice out a little bit earlier. So that's something that, again, we need a little bit more guidance from council on. Also looking at the use of remote listening stations for different public hearings and educational meetings as well. We used this approach back in 2015 and 2016 as well for different snapper grouper related items, hogfish and mutton snapper. And we'll continue using those approaches as appropriate based on the content of the information. There was also a lot of support for more informal port meetings that were similar to what was used during the visioning process. Again, we got some great input from our INE, AP, and committees to help develop and deliver some of those types of port meetings in 2017. Also, to diversify the locations of in-person meetings to allow stakeholders to have a little bit more one-on-one time with council members. So we've been trying to do that as well. We've been trying to tailor the location of in-person meetings based on the amendment that's being taken out to discuss, so that we're actually meeting in locations where the folks in that town or that community would be most affected by the amendment that's being presented. And council members attend each of those meetings, and so there's opportunity for folks to sit and talk one-on-one with council members. Also consider using direct mailings to target snapper grouper permit holders for any significant management or regulatory actions. Again, another thing that we need a little bit more guidance on, the approach of how to do that. Using web-based tools and other technology to collect public comment. We have been using a new public comment approach using online comment forms on the council's website. This was adopted earlier in 2016 in June for our council meetings, and so far is working pretty well. Also developing different one-page fishery management resources that are specifically targeted to different sectors. And we continue to provide these summaries of regulations, things for commercial and recreational snapper grouper regulations, as well as coastal migratory pelagics. We just recently worked on a joint RAC card with Florida FWC about new regulations in place for bringing fillets back from the Bahamas. And one thing that we're working on right now and is under review is a booklet that will summarize commercial black sea bass pot regulations to support implementation of Snapper Grouper Regulatory Amendment 16. And the last goal under the Vision Blueprint is governance. And the first item under here is to strengthen relationships with different management partners. That's something that we're still working on and need a little bit more guidance on from the council. Also trying to work on finding non-traditional partnerships and sources of funding to support our fisheries science and management activities. So we have been working on that front and contracted with Harbor Lights for the pilot project with the charter vessels trying out the electronic reporting. We've also worked with the Pew Charitable Trust and Dr. Will Heyman of LGL Ecological Associates on different spawning SMZ research, as well as working with our Sea Grant partners throughout the region that provided support for the Citizen Science Workshop, bringing fishermen to the table so that they could be a part of that process. Under accountable and flexible decision-making process, one of the action items was to consider alternative methods for collecting public input. And as I just described, we've been working on this new web-based method of collecting public input using these online comment forms. And something that we've been working on developing is an online forum for permit holders to informally discuss different management issues or management ideas that have come up during the initial development of an amendment. And last but not least, the hot topics under governance was to provide information to stakeholders in a timely manner as well as an appropriate format about different management actions. So one of the tools that we've used to do that is we've developed these little story maps that are meeting summaries after each council meeting as well as prior to public hearings and scoping meetings. They're a graphically based delivery or outreach tool that allows you to combine graphics, maps, as well as text content to tell a story. And so this is a great way for stakeholders to, in a more informal and plain language format, scroll through and learn about what has happened after each of the council meetings, and also to learn about specific amendments and what's being proposed before public hearings and scoping meetings. And then just to summarize the citizen science initiatives, as I mentioned earlier, we had our January 2016 Citizen Science Program Design Workshop that brought together fishermen and scientists to lay out the Citizen Science Program Design Blueprint that will help provide a framework for how the program could actually be implemented. We also had a development of a Kickstarter project idea, so an idea for our first citizen science project dealing with SCAMP grouper discard characterization using mobile app technology, as well as looking at opportunities for spawning special management zone research and monitoring using citizen science. So in summary, we've gotten a pretty good start off to our first year implementing the Vision Blueprint. In the science goal, we've initiated 9 of 13 priority items. Management, we have 3 amendments that are addressing several of the priority action items and objectives from that goal. In communication, we've initiated 10 of 13 priority items. And then in governance, 3 of the 4 priority items have already been started. However, there's still several priority items that we do need additional guidance from the council for moving forward in 2017 and beyond to meet those goals. So additional information is available under our Visioning Project tab. You can contact myself or Myra Brower, who's also been helping head up this project using the emails you see on the screen, as well as our phone number. And I do want to just quickly show you, if you've been onto the council's website lately, you may have noticed that things have changed a little bit. So this is the new council website, and under here, under the site menu, you can scroll down and here's the Vision Blueprint tab. So if you're interested in reading up on the history of the Visioning Project and everything that's happened that's brought us up to this point, as well as an actual copy of the Vision Blueprint, including the appendices, you can go to this page here. And then I also wanted to point out our new public comment page, which lists all of the different amendments that are currently under development by the council, including the Vision Blueprint amendments that I went over earlier and Snapper Grouper Amendment 43. And how you use this page is you scroll down to this accordion style expandable menu, click on the different fishery you're interested in, and then you'll see a list of all the different amendments. Here you see Snapper Grouper Amendment 43, and if you click on the amendment, it'll take you to a page where you get the proposed actions in the amendment and then also the most recent council actions. This barometer graphic that shows you at what step in the process the amendment is currently under. And then down here under the Get Involved, you can read the most recent document, as well as click these links here to submit comments online, or you can also read all the comments that have been submitted online from your fellow stakeholders. You can also access the comment form directly from this table here. And you would just click on this and it takes you to a Google form that you would then just fill out with your name, and then you type in your comment down here and hit submit. And all of that gets automatically recorded and posted to our website for the council and the public to read. So with that, I can open it up. We're not these webinars were intended to be more informational, but if anyone has any clarifying questions or needs information on how to find anything specifically, just raise your hand, or you can type it in the questions box, and I'd be happy to answer any questions for you. So I'm not seeing any questions. Again, if you think of anything after this webinar, feel free to shoot us an email or give us a call. A copy of this presentation is available on the Visioning Project page, and we are recording this webinar this evening, and so we should be able to post this to our YouTube channel so you can go back and listen anytime you'd like. So I see a question from Vincent Benura, and he's asking, has the website been updated yet to be able to see the briefing materials? And yes, it has. The website does have the briefing materials. If you go to the Vision Blueprint page and you just want to see this presentation, you can scroll down here. Actually, it's not on this page. It's on the other meetings page. I will add it to that page under other meetings, and it lists here at the top the webinars, and then here's where you can click to view the presentation. If you're interested in seeing the briefing book materials for the council meeting, just go to the council meetings page and scroll down here, and there's several links. There's a meeting details page, as well as the briefing book page, a public comment form for the December council meeting, and then a link to where you can read all the public comments that have been submitted for the council meeting. Comments for the December council meeting, at this point, they have to be submitted using this public comment form here. And you have until the Thursday of the last day of the, I'm sorry, you have until noon on December 8th to submit comments through the online comment form. Okay. So I think that is everyone's questions. Nobody has their hand raised. So with that, we'll wrap up the webinar. And I really appreciate everybody joining us this evening. And give us a shout if you have any follow-up questions, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.